Chapter 7. Heathcliff Returns, 1783. Well, sir, when Miss Catherine became Mrs. Linton and we went to live at Thrushcross Grange, I must say I was surprised and pleased by her behaviour. She showed great fondness for her husband and for his sister, Isabella. He, of course, was very anxious that no one should disobey her or make her angry. If she was depressed for a time, he blamed it on the illness she had had and was sympathetic. But for most of the time, I believed they shared a deep and growing love for each other. Unfortunately, this happiness did not last. One evening, I was bringing in a basket of apples from the garden when a voice behind me said, "Ellen, is that you?" It was a deep, rather unusual voice. I turned to see a tall, dark man in the shadow near the kitchen door. "Don't you know me?" he asked. "Look, I'm not a stranger." "What?" I cried in surprise, for it had been 4 years since he disappeared. "Heathcliff? Is it really you?" "Yes," he replied, looking up at the windows of the house. "Are they at home? Where is she? Tell me, Ellen. I must speak to her." "I'm not sure if you should see her," I hesitated. "Will the shock be too much for her?" "Go and tell her I'm here, Ellen," he said impatiently. "Don't make me suffer like this." I left him at the door and went upstairs to find Mr. and Mrs. Linton. They were sitting quietly together, looking out over the peaceful valley. The room and the view and the two people seemed so calm that I did not want to disturb them. But I had to deliver my message. "A man wants to see you, madam," I muttered. "I'll go downstairs and see him then," replied Catherine. "Bring the tea up, Ellen, while I'm away." She left the room. "Who is it, Ellen?" asked Mr. Edgar. "It's that Heathcliff, sir. You remember? He used to live at Wuthering Heights." "What? The gypsy who worked on the farm?" he cried. "Mrs. Linton would be angry if she heard you talking about him like that, sir. She was very upset when he ran away. She's very fond of him, you know." Mr. Edgar put his head out of the window and called to his wife. "Don't stand there in the cold, love. Bring the person in, if it's anyone special." Catherine rushed upstairs and into the room, wild and breathless. She threw her arms round her husband's neck. "Oh, Edgar, darling, Heathcliff's come back!" "Well, well," said Mr. Edgar crossly. "There's no need to get excited." "I know you didn't like him," she said, "but please, I beg you to be friends with him now. Shall I ask him to come up?" "You're suggesting inviting him up here, into our sitting room? Don't you think the kitchen is more suitable for him?" Catherine looked at her husband, half angry and half laughing. "No," she said, "I can't sit in the kitchen. Ellen, bring 2 tables, one for your master and Miss Isabella, the other for Heathcliff and myself. We'll sit apart from them, as we're of a lower class. Will that please you, Edgar, darling? Decide quickly. I must have him near me." "Ellen, you go and bring him up," said Mr. Edgar. "And Catherine, try not to behave foolishly. Remember, he's only a servant." When Heathcliff entered the sitting room, I was surprised to see how much he had changed. He wore a confident, intelligent expression on his face, and his manner was no longer rough. Although I recognised the same black fire in his eyes, the farm boy had become a gentleman. Mr. Edgar was as surprised as I was, but welcomed Heathcliff as politely as he could. However, he grew more and more annoyed as he watched his wife's delighted face. She could not take her eyes off Heathcliff. "Tomorrow, I won't be able to believe that I've seen and touched you, Heathcliff," she cried, catching hold of his hands. "But how cruel of you to run away and keep silent for 4 years and never think of me." "I thought of you more than you've thought of me," he replied quietly. "I heard you had married, Catherine, and I came just to see you once and then take my revenge on your brother Hindley. Your welcome may change my plans. You know, I've had a bitter, hard life since I last heard your voice, and if I've survived, it's all because of you." "Catherine," said Mr. Edgar, trying to remain polite, "please pour out the tea or it will be cold. Mr. Heathcliff will have a long walk to wherever he's staying tonight, and I'm thirsty." But Catherine was too excited, and Mr. Edgar too angry to drink any tea. After a while, their guest left. We discovered that he had been invited to stay at Wuthering Heights by Hindley. I could not understand why Hindley, who hated him, would want his company, and I felt sure it would have been better for all of us if Heathcliff had never come back. Catherine could not keep her happiness to herself. In the middle of the night, she woke me to talk about Heathcliff. "I just can't sleep, Ellen," she said. "And Edgar won't listen when I tell him how happy I am. He's so selfish." "He never liked Heathcliff," I replied, "and he'll be angry if you go on talking about him. You think he's weak, but he could be as determined as you about something he thinks is important." "No," she laughed. "I have such confidence in Edgar's love that I think I could kill him and he wouldn't blame me for it. He will have to learn to accept Heathcliff as my friend." "Do you know why Heathcliff is staying at Wuthering Heights?" "Oh, yes. He explained that he went there to look for me. Hindley asked him to play cards, and when he discovered Heathcliff had a lot of money, invited him to stay there. You know how greedy my brother is. He'll make Heathcliff pay rent and hope to win money from him at cards. Heathcliff wants to stay there to be near me. I'm so happy, Ellen, and I want everyone around me to be happy too." Catherine behaved so sweetly to her husband in the next few days that Thrushcross Grange seemed full of sunshine, and in spite of his doubts, Mr. Edgar allowed Heathcliff to visit her regularly. However, Heathcliff's visits produced a result which none of us had expected. Isabella, Mr. Edgar's sister, a pretty girl of 18, suddenly declared that she was in love with Heathcliff. Mr. Edgar, who loved her dearly, was shocked. He knew that if he and Catherine had no sons, Isabella would inherit the considerable Linton fortune. He did not like the idea of the fortune passing to Heathcliff as Isabella's husband. But more importantly, he suspected that Heathcliff was hiding his true wickedness under his gentlemanly appearance. Catherine tried hard to persuade Isabella that Heathcliff was not worth loving, but poor Isabella was jealous of Catherine's relationship with Heathcliff and would not listen. Finally, Catherine told Heathcliff himself that Isabella was in love with him. She thought she knew what his answer would be. "How could I ever love that stupid girl?" he asked. "She has a miserable pale face and weak blue eyes, just like your husband. But she will inherit the family wealth from him, won't she?" "That's true," replied Catherine. "But don't think about that, Heathcliff. I hope Edgar and I will have several sons, and then they will inherit it." Catherine did not speak of this matter again, but I am sure Heathcliff often thought about it. I watched him carefully in the next few days. I hoped he would do nothing to hurt Mr. Edgar, who was a kind master to me. I was worried, too, about what was happening at Wuthering Heights. Hindley and his son Hareton seemed like lost sheep to me, and I knew there was a wicked wolf just waiting for the chance to attack them. Chapter 8. Catherine is ill. 1783. The next time Heathcliff came to Thrushcross Grange, he met Isabella by chance in front of the house. I was watching from the kitchen window as he went up to her and, supposing that no one else could see him, kissed her. "Look, madam," I cried to Catherine, who was passing through the kitchen. "That devil Heathcliff told you he could never love Miss Isabella, and now he's kissing her." So when Heathcliff entered the house, Catherine was ready to scold him. "Leave Isabella alone, Heathcliff," she ordered. "You'll make Edgar angry." "You think I'm afraid of that weak little creature?" he growled. "Anyway, what difference does it make to you? I can kiss her if she likes it. I'm not your husband. You needn't be jealous of me." "I'm not jealous of you," replied Catherine. "If you like Isabella, you can marry her. But do you like her?" "It's you I want to talk about, Catherine. You know you've treated me badly, and I'm going to have my revenge. Thank you for telling me Isabella's secret. I swear I'll make good use of it." At this point, I went to look for my master and told him that Catherine and Heathcliff were quarrelling in the kitchen. "How can my wife call that man a friend?" he cried angrily. "I've been too weak with her. I can't allow him to visit her any more. Call 2 servants, Ellen." He went to the kitchen. I followed him, telling the servants to wait in the hall. "Catherine," said Mr. Edgar to his wife as he entered, "do you think it's right to listen to this wicked man's talk?" "Have you been listening at the door, Edgar?" asked Catherine, coldly. Heathcliff laughed, which made Mr. Edgar even angrier. "You, sir," he said to Heathcliff, "are poisoning our family life. I should never have accepted you as Catherine's friend. I must inform you that you will never be allowed to enter this house again, and that if you don't leave within 3 minutes, you will be thrown out." "Well, well," replied Heathcliff, looking scornfully at Mr. Edgar's small figure. "So, you're going to throw me out yourself, are you?" My master looked towards the door. I realised he wanted to call the servants, as he knew he was not strong enough to fight Heathcliff alone. But Catherine must have guessed his plan. She hurried to the door and locked it. Mr. Edgar looked at her in angry surprise. You must fight him like a gentleman, without anyone to help you, she told her husband. That'll teach you to scold me. Mr. Edgar tried to get hold of the key, but she threw it quickly into the hottest part of the fire. He went very pale and could not stop his whole body trembling. "Oh, Edgar," cried his wife, "you've lost the fight already. You aren't a man, you're a mouse." "So that," said Heathcliff, pointing at Mr. Edgar, "is the thing you preferred to me, Catherine. Is he crying, or is he going to die of fear?" He went up to look more closely at Mr. Edgar, who suddenly recovered and hit Heathcliff hard on the neck. While Heathcliff was getting his breath back, Mr. Edgar walked out of the other kitchen door into the garden. "Now you'll never be able to come here again," said Catherine to Heathcliff. "Go away quickly. He'll return with men and guns." Heathcliff was sensible enough to take her advice. He broke down the locked door and escaped, just as the master and his men returned. Catherine, who was overexcited, ordered me to go upstairs with her. I hoped she would not discover that I had told Mr. Edgar about her quarrel with Heathcliff. "I'm wild with anger, Ellen," she said when we reached the sitting room. "All this trouble is because of Isabella. Tell Edgar I'm in danger of becoming seriously ill. I hope it's true. I want to frighten him. He's upset me badly. Why did he listen to us talking in the kitchen? Heathcliff says wicked things, but I know I can control him. Well, if I can't have Heathcliff as my friend, if Edgar is going to be mean and jealous, I'll try to break both their hearts by breaking my own. You must remind Edgar how quick-tempered I am and what Dr. Kenneth said about my health. Edgar must let me do what I want." I did not feel sympathetic towards Catherine, and certainly did not want to frighten my poor master by telling him she was ill. As I was leaving the room, however, he entered. "Catherine," he said, "you must tell me one thing. You must choose between me and Heathcliff. Which do you intend to have?" "Leave me alone!" she cried wildly. "I'm ill! Can't you see? I can't even stand! Edgar, leave me!" She fell, stiff and pale, onto the floor. Mr. Edgar looked very frightened. "Don't worry, sir," I whispered to him. "She told me she would try to make you afraid by pretending to be ill." Unfortunately, she heard me. She jumped up, her hair loose and her eyes staring, and rushed to her bedroom. We heard the key turn in the lock. For the next few days, she refused to speak to anyone, even me. I took her food up to her room, but she would not eat. Mr. Edgar spent his time in the library and did not ask about his wife. He hoped, I suppose, that she would come and ask him to forgive her, but I knew she was too proud to do that. On the third day, she unlocked her door and called me. She ate and drank eagerly, then lay down again. "Oh, why don't I die, since no one cares about me?" she muttered. "Edgar doesn't love me at all. What is he doing all this time, Ellen?" "He's reading books in the library, madam," I answered. "Reading books?" she cried, shocked. "And I'm dying up here? My God, Does he know how I've changed? How ill I am? Can't you tell him I'm seriously ill, Ellen? You forget, Mrs. Linton, that you've eaten tonight. I'm sure you'll feel better tomorrow morning. I still wanted to make her realise how selfish she was being, although I was a little worried by her pale, almost ghostly face. I begin to see that you don't like me, Ellen. How strange. I always thought everybody loved me. Now they are all my enemies. Isabella and Edgar and you. I'll die with cold faces around me. I've had terrible dreams these past few nights, you know. Open the window, Ellen. I'm so hot. I refused, as it was the middle of winter. She was feverish. Who is that over there? She asked, staring at her own face in a mirror opposite her bed. I could not make her understand it was herself, and I began to be afraid that her illness was real. Stay with me, Ellen, she cried, holding my hand. I'm frightened of that face. I'm frightened of being alone. I wish I were in my bed at Wuthering Heights, with the wind howling through the trees. Do let me feel a breath of air from the moors. Just one breath. I opened the window for a moment, then closed it. The cold air seemed to calm her. I wish I were a young girl again, wild and free, out on the moors with Heathcliff. Open the window again, wider this time. Why won't you? Because I don't want you to die of cold, I replied. But it's my only chance of life, she cried, jumping out of bed and going to the window. I tried to force her back to bed, but her fever made her surprisingly strong. We looked out together into the icy darkness. There was no moon and no lights were visible anywhere. But Catherine was sure she could see Wuthering Heights. Look, she said. There's my old home, and the churchyard near it. I won't lie there alone, Heathcliff. I won't rest until you're in the grave with me. I was still holding her back from the window and wondering what to do next when Mr. Edgar entered. Please help, sir, I called. Mrs. Linton is ill. Catherine's ill? He gasped. Shut the window, Ellen. Catherine, why? When he saw his wife's face, he was so shocked that he stopped speaking and stared at her in horror. She was almost unconscious and did not recognise him at first. Ah, it's you, is it? Edgar Linton, she said after a few moments. You don't come when you're wanted, and now you come when you're not wanted. But whatever you say, nothing can keep me from my home, my place of rest, out there in the open air with a gravestone at my head. She's feverish, sir, and doesn't know what she's saying, I whispered. If she has food and rest, she'll recover. I want no further advice from you, Ellen Dean, said Mr. Edgar coldly. You knew how ill she was, and you didn't tell me. I ran downstairs and out of the kitchen door to fetch the doctor. I thought I heard the sound of horses in the distance, which seemed strange at 2 o'clock in the morning. And when I found Dr. Kenneth, he told me someone had seen Isabella and Heathcliff meeting secretly in the garden earlier that evening. That night, none of us slept. We all sat together and waited while the doctor stayed with his patient. He told us he hoped that Catherine would recover if we kept her very quiet. In the morning, we discovered that Isabella's room was empty. She had run away with Heathcliff. When Mr. Edgar heard the news, he just said, "She chose to go with him. Don't speak to me of her again. I no longer think of her as my sister." Chapter 9. Isabella's Story, 1784. For 2 months, we heard nothing of Isabella or Heathcliff. During that time, Catherine was dangerously ill with brain fever, and Dr. Kenneth warned us that even if she recovered, her brain would never return to normal. However, she did seem to get better, and no one could have been happier than my master when he saw her sitting up in bed for the first time and beginning to take an interest in the people and things around her. He loved her so much and took such good care of her that I really thought she would recover. There was another reason for her to live. She was expecting a baby, and we all hoped she would have a son who would inherit the Linton fortune. Then Mr. Edgar received a letter from Isabella, telling him that she and Heathcliff were married. With it was a long letter for me, which said, "Wuthering Heights, Dear Ellen, I arrived here last night and heard that Catherine is ill. My brother refuses to write to me, so you are the only one I can write to. Tell Edgar I still love him and Catherine and want to return to Thrushcross Grange, but I can't. The rest of this letter is for you alone, Ellen. 2 questions. How did you manage to get on with the people in this house? They don't seem human. And this interests me very much. What is Mr. Heathcliff? A man? A madman? A devil? When you come to visit me, you must explain to me what sort of creature I've married. And you must come very soon with a message from Edgar. Heathcliff brought me here last night. This house is going to be my home, he says. He disappeared as soon as we arrived, so I entered the kitchen alone. What a miserable, depressing place it is now, Ellen. By the fire stood a dirty child. I realised he must be Catherine's nephew, Hareton, and tried to shake his hand. But he greeted me by swearing at me, so I went into the hall to find somebody else. When I knocked at another door, it was opened by a tall, thin man with long, dirty hair hanging down to his shoulders. I knew this must be Hindley Earnshaw, Catherine's brother and Hareton's father. His eyes and Hareton's reminded me of Catherine. "What do you want?" he asked roughly. "My name was Isabella Linton," I replied. "Now I'm married to Mr. Heathcliff." "Ah, so that devil has returned. Good," he growled. You can imagine, Ellen, how unhappy I felt in that unpleasant house. I knew that only 4 miles away was my real home, Thrushcross Grange, containing the only people I loved in the world. But those 4 miles were like an ocean which I could not cross. Don't tell Edgar or Catherine this, but I had hoped to find a friend at Wuthering Heights, someone to support me against Heathcliff. Now I realised that no one here would help me. After a long silence, I said, Please ask a maid to show me my bedroom. I'm tired after my journey. We have no maids here, he answered. Joseph will show you Heathcliff's room if you like. And you'd better lock the bedroom door tonight. Why, Mr. Earnshaw? I asked. I did not want to lock myself in with Heathcliff. He brought out a gun, which had a knife attached to it. Look at this, he said. Every night I try to open his bedroom door. Up to now, he's locked it. But one night he'll forget, and then I'll kill him. Why do you hate him so much? I asked. Because he's taken everything from me, he shouted angrily. There's nothing left for Hareton to inherit, but I'm going to get it all back. And his money too, and then his blood. Then the devil can have his soul. He seemed mad to me, Ellen. I left him and went to find the old servant Joseph. It seemed that Heathcliff's room was locked, and there were no guest bedrooms, so in the end I slept on a chair in the child's room. What a welcome to my new home. I know Heathcliff blames Edgar for Catherine's illness. He has warned me he'll make me suffer for it. Oh, I do hate him. I'm so miserable. I've been such a fool. Don't tell anyone at Thrushcross Grange about this, Ellen. Come quickly. Don't disappoint me. Isabella. As soon as I had read this, I asked Mr. Edgar if I could take a message from him to his sister. You may visit her this afternoon, Ellen, if you like. Tell her I'm not angry, just sorry to have lost her. I can't imagine she will ever be happy. I shall never visit her or write to her. When I arrived at Wuthering Heights that afternoon, I was shocked to see how much worse the house looked than when I used to live there. I realised that Hindley did not care what conditions he lived in, and Joseph clearly spent more time praying than cleaning. Heathcliff and Isabella were both in the main room. Heathcliff looked more like a gentleman than I had ever seen him, but his wife had not bothered to brush her hair or change her dress. I had to explain to poor Isabella that Mr. Edgar had refused to write to her. She cried a little when she heard that. Then Heathcliff asked me question after question about Catherine's illness. If you really love her, I told him, you'll keep away from her now. She mustn't be overexcited. Her health will always be weak, and her loving husband is a very good nurse to her. Her loving husband? Repeated Heathcliff scornfully. Don't compare my feeling for her with his. No, Ellen. Before you leave this house, I'll make you promise to arrange a meeting for me with Catherine. I must see her. I'll never agree to that, I said. She's just beginning to recover. She's almost forgotten you, and now you want to upset her again. Ellen, you know as well as I do that she can never forget me. If she thinks once of Edgar Linton, she thinks 1,000 times of me. He can't love her as I can, and Catherine has a heart as deep as mine. Catherine and Edgar are very fond of each other, said Isabella suddenly. Don't speak of my brother like that. Your dear brother doesn't care enough about you to write to you, replied Heathcliff, smiling sourly. That's because he doesn't know how much I've suffered, she answered quietly, turning away to hide the tears on her face. Sir, I said, It seems to me that Mrs. Heathcliff, I should say, is unhappy. You must treat her kindly. Try to look after her. Let her have a maid, for example. I'm not going to be soft with her, he replied with a laugh. She was stupid enough to run away with me. I never pretended to love her. Now I think she's beginning to realise that I scorn her. She's an even weaker fool than her brother, but she's going to be useful to me. That's why I'm keeping her with me. Ellen, he says he married me to have his revenge on Edgar. But I won't let him carry out his plan, whatever it is. I'll die, or I'll see him dead first. You're getting violent, Isabella, said Heathcliff. Go upstairs now. I want to speak to Ellen Dean in private. Go on. And he pushed her roughly out of the door. Don't you feel pity for her? I asked when we were alone. Have you ever felt pity for anybody in your life? Why should I? She's just like an insect under my foot. The more she cries, the more I enjoy hurting her. Now, Ellen, listen. I'll wait every day and every evening in the Grange garden until I find a chance to see Catherine. If I meet Edgar Linton or his servants, I'll shoot them. But don't you think it'd be better to avoid a fight? You could tell me when she'll be alone. Then there'll be no violence. I argued and complained and refused 50 times, but in the end he forced me to agree. I promised to let him know when Edgar Linton was away from home. I suppose it was wrong of me, but I hoped it would be Heathcliff's last meeting with Catherine.